Indie games, indie games, indie games. If you don't play a whole lot of video games, you probably don't know what an indie game is. All of the big budget booty shooters or the newest repainted versions of Madden seem to dominate ad time today. And you'd be forgiven for thinking that that's all there is. And don't get me wrong, I love some of these games. The Last of Us and Titanfall 2 are some of my favorite games of all time. But AAA games today all start to feel a little samey once you've played a few of them. Multiplayer shooters, third-person action games, and Soulsborne games are all genres that describe a common set of mechanics and tropes born from these games' similarities. Indie games, on the other hand, truly give a chance to mix up the formula, allowing independent developers to not only create their own personal or team vision, but also expand on the medium. Since indie games need to do something different in order to be noticed by the public, this often creates games with some of the most unique mechanics and premises out there. I'm going to do a deep dive on one of my favorite titles, so let me go ahead and take you back to the glorious land of Arstotzka. Real quick, spoilers ahead for both story and gameplay for Papers, Please. If you haven't played it yet, you really should. Last time I checked, it's on Steam for about $10 right now. Great game to play during the whole quarantine situation thing. Okay. The reason that I say spoilers ahead for both story and gameplay is that Papers, Please is unique in that it does one thing that video games rarely do well. That is, it reinforces storytelling through its gameplay. You play as a citizen of the fictional Arstotzkan Empire who has just won the annual labor lottery. You've been given a position as a border inspector, and throughout the game you decide who is allowed to enter the country. A strange concept for a game for sure, but it seems quite simple at first. The gameplay you'll see is a little advanced as I've played through the game for years, so I'm at least better than a novice. In this run, I tried to play through the game and achieve its 20th and final ending, where I passed governmental inspection. Throughout the game, people will hand you their passports, ID supplements, access permits, and all other types of documentation, and it's your job to document and check to make sure that they're correct. What starts as a relatively simple concept, accepting or denying immigrants into the country, quickly grows more and more complex as each day of the game goes on. Rules change daily, world events will happen that affect your shifts, and your family might get sick, or terrorists arrive at the checkpoint. You can even choose to let a secret society enter through the country to attempt to tear down its infrastructure. These changes enhance the gameplay as there's only so much time in a single day you can make money in order to pay for the things like rent, food, and heating. And with the increased amount of paperwork that you'll have to sift through day to day, it becomes exponentially more difficult to make ends meet. You might search thoroughly through a new ID supplement that has been issued only to forget to check a passport's gender to see if it's matching. And I tell you what, I've made that mistake like 1,000 goddamn times. You usually get deducted about 5 credits, and that deduction from your pay is followed by this sound that haunts me till the day I die. The game does a great job of simulating pressure, and when the pressure is on, you might be forced to make uneasy moral decisions, which is where Lucas Pope, the creator of the game, does an excellent job by propositioning the player with difficult choices. It's much easier to detain people rather than deny them and hand them back their documents, especially when one of the guards offers to give you a pay bump for each detainee. How do you deal with the woman whose husband you just let into the country when she herself doesn't have correct papers? She didn't forge anything or act maliciously, and she says if you deny her, you're sending her to her death. What should you do when a woman slips you a note saying that she's been trafficked into the underground when she's been tracked into the underground Arstotzkan brothels and the man behind her is running the business? If you don't detain that man for no reason, then the girl turns up dead in the newspapers the next day. All of these things contribute to storytelling through gameplay. These situations aren't cutscenes, but actual things that happen in-game that you have the decision to make using the mechanics you've been using all game through. In the footage you're seeing, I played a strict by-the-book style where I detained loads of people, and I gave very little leeway to anyone who wasn't following the rules. And the funny thing is, I got the final ending by playing this way. Matthew Matosas' video, where he uses Papers, Please as a reference, raises great points of how the game uses subtle ways to give a sense of the bleak atmosphere and world building. You don't go to work in the game, you walk to work. The awards that you get aren't for excellence, but they're for adequacy. And most of the people's voices all speak in the same type of blurred gibberish, which kind of hints towards the fact that you're not really paying attention during your job. That last point has an asterisk, though, as I'm guessing that voice acting each person that comes through the checkpoint would be costly and probably not worth the trouble. As you continue to play Papers, Please, you may even notice the subtle ways it handles world building. If you look towards the issuing city section of the passport, you see the city that that passport was made out of or whatever. I don't know exactly how it works. But I do know that like all of the cities that relate to the countries. And I know that because I've had to check them every goddamn time someone wanted to come through. So I know that Vador's in Kalekia or Lorndaz is in Obristan. And anytime I see one that's incorrect, I'll just lock that shit up immediately. You're going to the goddamn gulag, baby. There are a couple examples, though, of some pretty interesting world building in them. For instance, there's Eastern and Western Grestin split between Arstotzka and Kalekia. There's two cities named Glorian and True Glorian. I think that's a really unique game mechanic, or I guess you would call it emergent gameplay, since might not be intended, but it works really well for what the game is going for. These are a couple examples of breadcrumbs that help paint a bigger story to the world that Papers, Please is in. You don't know a whole lot since you're the border inspector, but you pick up little hints of where this world has been and the types of things that have happened here. And furthermore, the history of the world hasn't stopped. All the time through the game, you're going to have terrorist attacks, and a lot of them are going to be from Kalekia. Then, the next day, you're forced to do mandatory searches of all Kalekian immigrants. I like most of this stuff personally, as it not only feels plausible and realistic, but it also helps immerse the player as the border checkpoint inspector. Last thing that I'm going to mention about the passports and the papers is one of the more minor things, I think, is that the game was originally constructed to be slightly awkward with how you have to drag them over into your space, and your space is meant to purposefully get cluttered so that you have to, fumble around with which one you're looking at and where everything is, and when you need to hand them back, you're going to have to figure out which ones are your papers and which one aren't. And with 20 different endings in the campaign, it's highly replayable. While I've never gotten enough fake passports to bring my whole family to Obristan at the end of the game, I did achieve the labor inspection on this run, so I'll talk a little bit about the endless modes. I'll start this section off by saying that the extra endless modes within Papers, Please I find to be mostly lackluster. I will say it's nice little add-on. It is an indie game, and I don't really expect like a wealth of things, and it's nice that they're even there to begin with, but I don't think that they do nearly a good job as the campaign. The campaign is so detailed and so well orchestrated and constructed that playing random endless modes just feels a little bit shallow in comparison. It's nice that these modes are in here at all, like I said, but most of them I don't find very interesting. The endurance and perfection modes I find to be monotonous slogs. The game isn't exactly fun unless it's on a time limit, and you're really just doing paperwork at the end of the day if you're playing them without a time limit. But the mode the timed mode? Yeah, that one. The time mode, on the other hand, has most potential for sure. It's fun enough, and I can see myself playing it again and again. It's not as good as the campaign, but, it's something at least. Hey, why not sprinkle a little goddamn sprinkles on your raspberry? What am I going on here? Couple little things about the game. Performance-wise, the game has actually usually been incredible. I mean, it's not a very big file at all. It did crash on me for the first time ever since I bought it. when I was recording this video. So I guess that's unfortunate for it, but I think most people will be fine and can be run on most computers. Another part of the game I like is whenever someone runs across the screen and you have to shoot them from your desk. I always imagine it like you're doing your own desk pop.
Here we go.
Do it, yes.
So if I haven't convinced you to try out Papers, Please, then I don't know what else I can say. It's not a perfect game, but I think it's a very good example of a really good game and what games can do. Very few games are this innovative and unique, and I'd love to see more indie games follow in the creator's footsteps of Papers, Please. Lucas Pope has already released another title since Papers, Please called Return of the Obra Dinn, which has gotten a lot of really good reviews, and I need to play it yet. I haven't played it yet. Just get off my back. But I will, and I've heard it's really good, so you should check that one out too if you want. I definitely count myself as a fan of Mr. Pope's work. I can't wait to see what he does next, and I'm, still going to keep playing Papers, Please whenever I'm bored or have spare time. And I also hope that I convinced you that indie games are pretty dope. You should play them. They do different things. I don't need to keep going on about it, but you get the idea. They're cheap and they're good, and they support independent developers and yada, yada, yada. So yeah, go get the game and do it. What else do you want from me? Welcome to the end of the video. If you made it here, thanks for watching. Yeah, I plan to do more videos like this, so be on the lookout. And, hope everyone's staying safe during the quarantine. Stay safe and healthy. Since the quarantine is going underway, I'm going to start, if you don't know, I play D&D with my friends. So I'm going to start playing the sessions online, and we're going to stream it. I don't have exact details. Maybe they might be on the screen, maybe they won't. Like when we're gonna go live, but if you're subscribed to me, you'll at least see when I go live, so hopefully it's a good time. I don't really have a super formal system about it yet, so if that catches traction, then hopefully I will. But yeah, in other words, thanks for watching. Make sure you drop likes and comments and whatnot. Comment like your, favorite indie game or whatever. I'm playing right now Cultist Simulator, and I think that one's pretty fun. It's like a card game for building cults. So yeah, thanks.